Hey guys, and welcome to Faith First Designs. I'm Faith, and today we're doing another collaboration with K&A Custom Fabrics. Now we have made a ton of sew along patterns, and today I'm going to be showing you our latest and greatest. If you've ever watched the movie Lost Boys, my husband knew exactly what it was the second that he saw it, so that was a little before my time, I think. Anyway, we came out with a Lost Boys panel pattern. There you go. For you guys for a sew along, and today I'm going to show you in this video how to make it. So we've got our It's Just Noodles, Michael. My husband had to tell me that one. On the top, and it'll probably be going a different direction. It's Just Noodles. We've got on the top so that when you open it up, if you can see over here, we've got the worms on the inside. The outside has kind of just like this, there's a handprint on the back. I don't know if you can see it. But anyway, when you open it up, it reminded me of a Demogorgon from Stranger Things. When you open it all up, you've got your little worms on the inside. Now this one doesn't have any kind of zipper pockets or anything like that, but don't let that stop you from going ahead and being creative and putting a zipper pocket in if you want it to. So, let's get started. Alright guys, so let's talk about cutting this out and the cutting issues that we've run into, and I just want to show you guys what to do. So when you get your panel, it's going to have a white background. What you're going to do is you're going to be cutting away that white background, so just cutting right on the edge of the black and just cutting the white away. If you're using vinyl, you're going to want to use some Decovil Light or something like that on the back. I also use like 1/4 of an inch from the edge, just so that they're not in the seams. My machine can handle it, but if you're using a domestic or something like that, you want to cut your interfacing about 1/4 of an inch shorter so that it's not in your seams. Okay, so let's talk about pieces. I grabbed a couple of the main pieces that I saw we had some issues with. The issues are not in the vinyl. The vinyl is absolutely fine. They're the right measurements. What happens in translation is when Kim and Alex decided to make the lining separated from the outside, we noticed that the lining was kind of funky and not the same size. I don't know why. It's a little frustrating. So what you're going to want to do when you're cutting out your lining is you're going to want to place your vinyl pieces on top of your lining pieces, and then make sure that they both, I mean, you can go ahead and cut it out, and just make sure that they're both the same size. They're off by like a smidgen in different weird places. It's so weird, but anyway, so let's look at it real quick. So this one you could kind of tell was off by just a smidgen up here. Alright, so one of your little flaps, you can just lay that down, and you can kind of tell on the bottom it's off by like just a smidge, just a hair. And then your very bottom piece, it's off by a hair all the way on 3 sides. So when you're cutting out your lining pieces, take your main panel pieces, whatever they are, and use them to trace your lining pieces. Hopefully we can get this figured out, and hopefully it won't happen on any more bags. But I mean, stuff happens, you guys, you can't help it. Alright, when you're cutting your lining fabric out, you want to interface it. You can use SF101. I like to use the Pellon 950F. I find that it's a little stiffer, and I like it because it'll help my bag kind of stand up on its own. So let's get all of these cut out. Alright, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to grab our 2 worm pieces and our 2 black pieces. These are going to be your outside fabrics. So whether it's vinyl or cotton woven or canvas, grab those. And then you're going to grab all of your lining fabrics. We're going to put all of those right sides together, and I'm just going to clip these in place till I go to the sewing machine. And we are going to sew around 3 sides. We're going to sew from here to here to here to here and back down again, making sure that you backstitch right here and right here. So let's go do that. Alright, so I am going to have my stitches at a 3. I have got right sides facing each other. I'm going to go ahead, I've got some black thread in. I'm going to start, hang on to your tails. And then we're just going around a 1/4 of an inch around the edge. I'm going to grab my tail so it's out of the way. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just keep making all 4, and I'm just going to kind of chain stitch them one right behind the other. I'm not sewing them together. I'm just kind of putting one right after the other so that I can save on thread. Alright, after you do that, you can just separate everything, or you can do it while you're sewing. It's up to you. Alright, before we turn these inside out, we got a lot of angles that we got to deal with, so everything will lay flat when we turn it inside out. So I'm just going to trim up these corners, and then the bottom ones, you could take some pinking shears and just go all the way around. I'm thinking that let's try that. It might actually turn better if I use pinking shears, so let's see. I don't like my pinking shears because they make my hands hurt when I'm done sewing, or when I'm done pinking everything. But it might be the best option because this panel has so many curves. Alright, so you're going to want to get that flat. And I think I'm going to change my thread out to a red that I have so that it'll look better. Black might actually stand out a little bit worse. I'm going to turn those inside out, just like that. Okay. And then just flatten it out. And I think I do. I have a maroonish color thread that I'm going to put in my bobbin so that when I sew it on the bottom, when I sew my lining, it'll be that color and it won't be black. I just don't want it to like stand out too bad. You can do whatever color thread you've got. It doesn't matter. It's up to you. It's your bag. So I'm just going to switch that out real quick. Okay. Doing business. Now we're going to switch our stitch length to a 4 to top stitch. I'm going to go ahead and go around this side right here just to kind of base stitch it in place. And down about 1/8 of an inch from the edge. I'm going to do my top stitching. Alright, so you're going to want to go do that to all 4 of your pieces. Now that we have got all of these sewn and we have our lining attached, and we're all base stitched down at the bottom and everything. What we're going to do is we're going to grab the very bottom part. This is just a plain black part, and then we're going to grab our 2 black pieces with the lining. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to center these pieces on one side and then again on the opposite side, just like that. They are going to kind of overlap over top of each other. Now, what we're going to do at the sewing machine is we're going to base stitch along this bottom edge on both sides, and then what we're going to do is we're going to come back to this top line right here, and we're just going to start right here and then sew along here. And you can, when I'm going to do it, I'm going to start a stitch, back stitch, go forward, stop, back stitch, go forward, making sure that you hang on to your strings so that we can pull them through the back. And so let's go do that now. Alright, so we've got our black piece that we kind of put together. Now what I'm going to do is I've got my stitches at a 4. I'm back to my black thread. I'm just going to kind of base stitch this in place. Okay, so it doesn't matter which side of the flap is on top. It really doesn't matter. This is on the bottom of the bag, so it's not a big deal. But you need to put them down flat as you can get them. And then she's going to be a little thick, especially if you use a vinyl. Alright, so I'm going to go down. And I still have my stitches at a 4 because my basting stitches on top, or my top stitching, is a 4. So I took 1 step forward, I'm going to take 1 step back, and then start sewing. Stop, back, forward, up. Now what I'm going to do is pull this out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my threads and I'm going to pull them out. And that one's going to be a pain, I know. Okay, I'm going to do this to both sides. I'm going to take a knot or 2. I'm going to cut my threads. And then I'm going to burn. I'm going to burn the ends of my threads. Do that for both these sides. And then your back panel, or your bottom panel, will be nice and adhered to the back bottom panel. Alright, we are all done with our bottom piece. We're just going to kind of set that aside. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to grab our front and our back kind of sort of side panels situation. We're going to grab both of them, and what we're going to do is we're going to do one side at a time. I am going to grab my clips. I have my black thread in. I am going to switch my stitch length back to a 3. I have a size 12 needle in there, by the way. Just with this vinyl, I like to use a lighter needle. What we're going to do is we're going to sew down this one side, making sure to backstitch. Take this out and cut all of our threads. Alright, now I've switched my stitch length to a 4. What we're going to do is we're going to open this up, and we are going to press our seams, and you can even use double-sided tape if you wanted to, just to kind of make them lay down. It's up to you. I find I could just do it with my fingers and it's fine. We are going to stitch like right down the center of this 1/4 inch seam allowance. We're just making sure that these two are laying flat. This will make turning the bag so much easier and for everything to just kind of lay flat. Hopefully you can see it. It just kind of made everything, all of the seams, be nice and flat. Alright, we're going to do that again. So we're attaching this side now. Okay, our stitches need to go back to a 3. Now we're going to do the same thing again, and this is going to be a little harder this time because you've got the other side done. So the way that I'm going to do this, I'm going to put my stitches back to a 4. The way that I'm going to do this is kind of press it open with my fingers. And then I'm going to do it from the top side. I'm going to lay it flat down, making sure that those two are open up. Then you're going to have to just kind of feel it with your hand as you're sewing. You can start from the bottom or the top, whatever you're more comfortable with. And as you kind of shift things around and move things around, make sure your needle is down. And I realize that you can't see what I'm doing, and I apologize for that. There is only so much room for me and my big head on this fabric. So now I'm twisting it around. So now you should have a big circle. Both of your seam allowances should be sewn down. I just sewed all the way down, kind of turned around, and then came back down. Now you need to grab your lining and you need to do the same thing. Now that I'm working with cotton woven, I've got my stitches at a 2.5, or my stitch length I should say. I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did with my outside fabric with my lining so that they will stay nice and flat. And this is the lining, so I'm not super worried about it. So I'm just going to do it where I can see it. Alright, and now we're going to put this side together. That's all done. Let's grab our D-ring straps. Alright, so we got our lining in one big circle, our outside fabric in one big circle. Now we're going to work on our D-rings. I went ahead before I did my interfacing and I drew a line down the center of my D-ring strap. I did that for two reasons. One, we're going to be adding a 3/4 of an inch by 4-inch strip of Decoville Light. That's just going to kind of make this really, really sturdy. I wanted to be able to put the Decoville Light centered because I have a tendency to just kind of like eyeball it and not necessarily have it be in the center. So you've got your middle line there and hopefully you can see it. If you need to, you can take your ruler and just mark it again over top of the Decoville Light. It's up to you. Then I've got a 1/2 inch, which is probably overkill, of my double-sided tape. I'm going to put a piece in the center, and then I'm going to take my tape off, and I am going to have the edges meet in the center of my Decavillite, and I'm going to turn it around and do the same thing on the other side. Now we are going to top stitch this so that it'll stay in place. I'm just going to put some clips on it just so that it doesn't pop back open. It shouldn't, but just in case. I'm going to do both of these. And then we're going to take them to the machine. And with a 4 stitch length, we're going to sew down, come over, and then back up, just so that they'll stay in place. Alright, so let's go do that. Alright, so now what we're going to do is with a 4 stitch length, you're going to want to sew right down the center of your D-ring. We want this flap to stay down. I should clarify. You want to sew down the center of the one side of your flap, not the center of your D-ring strap. So that it looks like this. You want to sew down the center of this side and the center of this side as best you can, and then when you turn it over, it'll look really nice like that. So let's finish this one. Alright, so you got your D-rings all ready to go. You're going to want to grab a 1-inch D-ring. Then we're going to slide it on and close this up right in the middle. And just to make life easier on myself, I'm going to go ahead with my stitches at a 4. I'm going to go ahead and just sew. You don't have to overkill it. Just put one little stitch on there just to keep the D-ring strap closed. I'm going to do that for both of them. You don't need to back stitch or anything like that. We're just going to... I just want them to stay closed because I'm getting ready to base stitch them onto the main part of the bag, and I don't want to have to like fiddle with them popping open on me. Alright, now you're going to want to grab your outside part of your bag. You can get some kind of marker or you can eyeball it, it's up to you. But you're going to want to mark down about 1/2 inch so that this is popping up over the side of the bag, just like that. And then I'm going to get some clips. Right where our line is, right here, we're going to put our D-ring as centered as you can get it, just like that, and you should be able to see that 1/2 inch mark. We are going to clip this in place, and then I'm going to base stitch it on right there. And we're going to do that for both sides. You don't have to overkill this part. Again, just stitch. You don't need to back stitch. You don't need to do any of that. You just need to stitch over it once. We don't want to puncture this vinyl any more than we have to. So I'm just going to go over it once. You can pull your strings through. You can burn them. Whatever you like to do, but you just need to make sure that it's as straight as you can get it. I think mine wiggled a little bit. Alright, so we got 1/2 inch. I'm going to make a mark because I want them to be nice and even on both sides. That'd be kind of funny to have one at like 1/4 inch and the other one at like 1/2 inch. Alright, so we're going to do this again. If I haven't said it, I'm going to say it again. I've got my stitches at a 4 length. Come on. And this is just base stitching it in place so that it makes it a whole lot easier when we're trying to put the lining in and everything. It'll just be easier if it's base stitched on there. Alright, so you got both of our D-rings base stitched in place. Next thing that we're going to grab is our 2 pieces of the outside panels. And it's going to be kind of difficult to see because they're both the same thing. But this side is my vinyl, this side is my cotton. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to put vinyl to vinyl on each side of this. Okay, and then I'm going to clip it into place. It should being the key word there, it should go directly, it should fit right there. Hopefully, nope. Hopefully you can see that it goes in between these notches right here, and it should be completely centered. I am also going to base stitch this in place. And go nice and slow over that D-ring. Okay, pull that out, and you're going to do the same exact thing on the opposite side. Alright, so we're going to grab this piece, vinyl to vinyl, and try and get it as centered as you can. And then you're going to base stitch that on. Okay, so now that we've got both of those flaps attached, and I know it's hard to see, let's go to the sewing table so that I can show you what we need to do next. Okay, so we have got our top side flip pieces all done. Next thing that we're going to do is we already have our two middle side pieces. I want you to put those two middle side pieces together, and then what we're going to do is we're going to follow it down, and we're going to make just a little tiny clip, just like that, so that we can find the center. Do it again on the opposite side, putting the centers together, and then coming down and making a little clip. Okay? Now, we're going to grab the bottom of our panel. We're going to put the sides together, make a little clip. This side together, make a little clip. This side's going to be a little harder because it's a little thicker. Alright, so we got all 4 points for the bottom and then all 4 points for the very bottom. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to start on the side that has our stitching, this side. And you're going to grab this side right here, and we're going to line up both of our clips and this. You're just going to clip all the way to the edge. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at a 1/2 inch. We're not going to sew all the way from this edge to edge. We're going to start at a 1/4 inch. Sorry, we're going to start at a 1/4 inch, come all the way down till we get to the next 1/4 inch, and stop. We're going to make sure that we back stitch. Now we're going to match up this side. Alright, so let's go to the sewing machine. We're just going to do these two sides first, and then we'll mess with these sides. Alright, so we're going to have our stitches at a 3. I still have my size 12 needle in. And what we're going to do is we're going to start at a 1/4 inch, hanging on to the tails of your thread. That's a really good habit to get into, by the way. Alright, so just like that. hopefully you could see what I was doing. So I started a quarter of an inch in, came down to about a quarter of an inch down from the other side. Now let's do this on this side. Now that those two sides are done, what we're going to do is we're going to match up our notches in the side of our panel and the notches in the bottom of the panel. And this time we're going to sew all the way down, closing up the bottom of this bag. All right. Now that you've got this done, we need to do this to our lining fabric so that it has a bottom as well. Alright, so I've got my lining fabric. I am going to put the centers together just like I did on the outside panel. Make a little snip. And then making sure to do it on the other side as well. Snip. The very bottom panel, make sure that you do both sides so that we can kind of match up our centers. I just took a peek inside the bag and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna look so good. Alright, now we're going to do just like we did. We're going to start on the side where we do our stitching. Again, we are going to start at a quarter of an inch seam allowance. And we're going to start at a quarter of an inch from the edge. We're going to do the two sides first. And then we'll do the other two sides and finish it off. On one of the sides of the very bottom, we're going to have to leave an opening so that we can turn everything inside out. But we're going to worry about that when we get there. Alright. I am going to adjust my stitches to a 2.5. Alright, so my stitches are a 2.5. I started a quarter of an inch in. And if you're not right on the money, it's okay. Just as close as you can get it. Alright, so we're measuring up again, matching up our notches. On the last side, we're going to match up the center and clip. We're going to clip all the way down just to make sure everything's where it's going to be. We're going to be turning all of this through this bottom piece. I think a zipper pocket on this would have been too small, and I think it would have busted all the seams because of everything being so tight. So I think this is the best option. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start at your very end, come in about 1.5 inches, backstitch, come over, and you want to come in about 1.5 inches and backstitch. I think that's going to give us enough room to kind of turn everything inside out. So let me sew this side. You want to make sure that you leave yourself a decent size hole to turn this whole bag in. I think we're going to be struggling. We might be riding the struggle bus today, but we shall see. So now that we've got that sewn, alright, so we're back at the table. I have got my outside all done. We have got our lining all done. If you wanted to, you could add a zipper pocket to this, but it's just so tight, I kind of decided against it. It's up to you. Alright, now what we're going to do is we're going to turn this inside out, and I would highly caution you to take your time turning this inside out because it is so small. I would just take my time, do one corner at a time, You don't want to like pull on the vinyl too hard. Okay, there we go. I'll turn it inside out. It's just noodles. Okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to line up these side flaps with these side flaps. That was easy to say. Side flaps here. So we're going to stick the body inside of this, making sure that these flaps go inside as well, because they kind of have a tendency to want to flip out. Okay, first I would start off with these sides. Oh, kind of making everything match up as best you can. I'm just going to clip right here. Okay. Alright, now we're going to want to add our hardware. So let me go grab that. Alright, so we're going to ground level for a minute. And I wanted to show you the It's Just Noodles side. You're going to have your lining right here together, okay? This is the side that we're going to be working on first. Very first thing that you're going to do is you're going to turn this upside down. And if you've got a cutting mat on your table, you're going to want to center this as best you can. Oh, between there, it should be 1, 2, so it should be in between 3 inches. So you should have a little bit of here and a little bit of here. And what I did was I marked a line down the center so I could find the center. And then I marked at 1.25 inches. That's where you're going to want to make your first mark. And then you're going to want to take your magnetic snap. So we're going to have magnetic snaps for this. You're going to take your washer, and then you're going to take a pen and just kind of make marks where the washer needs to go. Now we're going to do the female end on this side. So let's do that. And also you could probably get some of that. I always like to get the one-sided interfacing and put it behind here. So let me just show you. Alright, so we've got all of our marks done. Now we're going to need our seam ripper. So we are just seam ripping through the lining. I've got my vinyl like tucked underneath out of the way, so it's not in my way. Alright, so we're just going to do those 2 spots. And then I am going to grab my female end. I'm going to push it through there. Then I'm going to grab my one-sided interfacing. And I'm going to take a washer and I'm going to make 2 marks. Poke those through. Push that down. And then put my washer on and push those sides down. Now we got to work on the other side. Alright, so we've got the front lining flap done. The next thing that we're going to do is on the actual vinyl side that doesn't have anything on it. You're going to center this again just like you did the other side, and you're going to draw a straight line up to 2 inches. At that 2 inches mark, you're going to get your washer and put the center of your washer on that dot, and then make your lines. I'm going to grab my handy dandy seam ripper. I am only seam ripping through the vinyl, not the lining. Okay, now I'm going to grab the male end. We're going to poke it through. I'm going to poke it through the front. Lay this down. I also have another piece of the one-sided interfacing. I'm just going to poke those holes through and then add my washer and push those down. Now we can finish what we were doing. So we're going to clip all the way around because we are going to sew this all the way around, and hopefully you'll be able to see it better when we get to the sewing machine. But go ahead and just clip this all the way around. Alright, let's go to the sewing machine. Alright, we're at the home stretch. What we're going to do, let's see, let me get my 3 stitch length. I still have my 12 needle in. I am going to be sewing at a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the edge. And we are just going to follow this all the way around. Make sure that when you're sewing that you're putting your needle down before you make any of your turns. You don't want your needle up when you're trying to move things around. It'll mess it all up. Before we turn all of this inside out and before you start to hate me, we have got some clips to make so that when we turn this inside out, it lays nice and flat. So you see on these corners right here, and I am thinking about double stitching this and going back around again, but we'll see. I am going to take my scissors and go right to my stitches. Don't cut your stitches, but just kind of make a snip right there so that that kind of lays open. That'll really help this lay flat when we turn it inside out and we're trying to top stitch it. It'll really help. So you just want to make those little clips right there. Just make sure that you don't get your stitches. And you want to come back and you want to get these corners, because you want them, I need a real pair of scissors. You want them to turn easily as well. So I'm going to get these corners right here. Make sure that you make those clips and those notches because it will help out later on. I think I'm going to trust it. Alright, so what we're going to do is all of that needs to come through here. It's like having a baby, guys. Alright, so you're going to squish it up. I'm just going to take my hand on the inside of the bag and kind of squish up my outside fabric. And it is going to be tough, guys. I'm almost thinking it would be best to leave this side undone, unsewn, and then just sew it down on the end. We did it! Yay! Okay. You want to just kind of straighten out the bottom. And then we are going to find our pieces that are inside and bring them out. Alright, so I have a non-sharp edged pair of scissors and I'm going to stick these in and just kind of poke these holes out a little bit. If you got like a dowel or something that you have that you can stick in there and kind of get those corners out, it'll look a lot better. Okay. Now, I'm going to shove all that in there. Like so. And if you want to, you can go around and kind of clip like mad. It's up to you. But you need to make sure that you've got these little ends out. You might have to use your scissors or your dowel. So these spots right here, they're gonna stick out just a tiny bit, and you really need to make sure that they're popping out as much as they can, because that's kind of what makes it look like the box, is that little tiny corner. Alright, now stick that back in there. And you can't really clip this side, so you're going to have to just kind of hold it while you're stitching. What we need to do is some top stitching. So you can go ahead and you can clip all the way around just to kind of make sure that your fabric stays where you want it to. But I'm going to play the chicken game. I am also going to be changing my thread color out just so that it matches the lining. I'm going to be doing this with the vinyl facing down, just because I think that's going to be the easiest way to kind of maneuver this and get it under my machine, is having the lining facing up. So that's what I'm going to try. Alright, so I've got my red thread in, I've got my stitches at a 4, I still have my 12 needle in. I think that's fine. Now, when top stitching this is going to be here. So just make sure, if you're sewing it like I am, make sure that your D-ring and everything is facing up like this, and it's not like down. You can't even see that. Make sure that it's up like this and not down like that. There's also a reason why we made the D-ring strap a little bit longer on the inside, so that we can get it again when we're going around doing our top stitching, so that it makes sure that it's not going anywhere. So let's pick a spot and roll. When I'm going to pivot, I made sure that my needle is down. I am making sure that my D-ring is up out of the way. And I'm going to take my time sewing along this. Making sure that your lining fabric's all pulled out of the way. I actually have my fingers on the D-ring because I am not sewing over that sucker. And the booty of my foot is stuck, so let's... Okay. Phew. So we're all done. My camera died on me. The battery was just like, nope, I'm done. Alright, so we still got our bottom open, which you can't see. So there you go. I am going to fold it in 1/4 inch. And then I'm going to do the other side. And then just sew it closed. You can't see what I'm doing. Okay, cool. Cool, 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 cool. Okay. Now, sew it closed. Alright, so then just put your lining back in there like so. We're going to put these flaps down first, and then you're going to have your little snaps. Now all you need to do is make a strap, and it's just noodles. Alright guys, what did you think? I hope this was an easy sew for you guys. I was really struggling to try and make something just easy. You guys should have seen this pattern when it first came out. I actually looked up how the Chinese food boxes, when they're laid out flat, how they were made, and you almost got a pattern like that. I'm so glad we thought about it a little bit more and made it a little simpler. So hopefully it was a simple sew for you guys. If you like this video, you can click the like button, or if you want to subscribe and make sure that you don't miss any more of the sew along patterns, because you're getting a little glimpse of one over there. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button so that you don't miss out. If you have any questions, comments about anything to do with the bag or the pattern, let me know. All of the links will be down below. We have the bag pattern link, and then there's also written instructions. I've been trying to keep up with the written instructions for you guys for all of the new patterns that are coming out. I'm trying to keep up with them to make sure, because some of you guys really enjoy the patterns that I've been making for the written instructions. I am taking pictures of every single step of how to put these together so that you guys can see everything, and in case you had any questions or missed something in the video, they will be in the written instructions. So thanks for joining us again on FaithWorks Designs. Bye guys.